Trade deadline outlook for the New York Mets. This is Ryan Finkelstein, managing editor of Just Baseball. Got Aram, Leighton, our co-founder here, and we are going to go through all these teams. But the Mets, I got a little bit of experience talking about the deadline with my show Locked On Mets, so I'll get your take on some of this. I think the needs are obvious right now. They got Vogelbach. They need a right-handed complement to him. They got to address their bullpen. And recent reports have Willson Contreras and David Robertson as a trade target. We had wrote an article about that months ago. I've been talking about it for a while. To me, if they make that trade, I think this is a good deadline for the Mets.
Oh man, I mean, you're getting basically the best offensive catcher and a reliever that's been resurgent, but he's been there before too. It's not
Yeah.
just what he's doing this year. It's a guy that's been there before. And we know the volatility of relievers. This is a year where he's good and he's a guy that's been there. So that would put them, I mean, over the top is an overused term because what is the top? But it would put them presumably in a place where they could be over the top if they
Yeah.
are able to play to their full capability. I mean, we talk about what they need. Every team could use another bullpen arm, and the Mets specifically, which is surprising. I really do believe that they need another home run hitter, which is weird.
Yeah.
I've never really said that about a team in today's game anymore, but they've got so many guys that are bat to ball oriented, which is great. I think it's part of the reason why they are so consistent. But they need a guy that can leave the yard kind of whenever. And right now, that guy's really just Pete Alonso and maybe Frankie Lindor on the right week. And they need another guy that can, kind of just impact and put some fear into the pitcher.
I am curious what your take was on the Vogelbach trade. I don't really want to talk about Colin Holderman too much here. Just more his. I mean, granted, it was a lot to give up. I do admit that, but it's still a 26-year-old reliever, and I don't think that you can get too upset about that. More, you have to focus on what this guy's going to bring to the Mets as just that left-handed half of a platoon. I kind of like the move, but I'm curious what your take is.
If the plan for the Mets is to go get another reliever, which it seems like it is, you're kind of swapping in and one in and swapping one out, right? And the priority was to get a guy like Vogelbach. They didn't want to give up prospects, and I think it's fine. I it didn't excite me. I was kind of
Yeah,
surprised by it, but at the end of the day, if you're not putting him against lefties, he's a guy that hits righties really well. He's not going to have that every single day role. That's fine. With what he's done against righties this year, I think all 12 of his homers have come against
yeah.
righties. He's a 260 hitter against righties. Like he's going to
149
thrive in
WRC
that role.
plus.
Yeah,
149 against right-handed pitching.
he'll thrive in that role. And I think that's exactly what the Mets need, like you said. So instead of getting one big time guy, maybe they're going for more of that, platoon and answer it with two medium guys. But it's going to be interesting to see because Contreras would kind of say the opposite if they go out and get him. But we could see them maybe just go a little bit more low key with a right handed bat.
Yeah, I think if to get Contreras, the role is obviously probably catches 3 days a week, maybe DHs 3 days a week, and he will be that complement. If they do go elsewhere, I still see Brandon Drury as an ideal fit.
Yep.
Bring him back after last year. He's been crushing left-handed pitching, and it kind of is that perfect platoon fit with Vogelbach.
Well, and he's kind of proven that, we were looking last year and he got thrown into the fold because the Mets had injury issues at some points and he was good with the Mets, Drury was. So at
Yeah.
that point we kind of thought, oh, it's just a nice stretch for a guy. I mean, you can't really bank on it. Well, now he's followed that up with a really nice season in Cincinnati. So I think you can go out and get a Drury and say, hey, we're going to get better than league average production and defensive versatility from this guy. And that's not a bad option there. But I do agree. It's interesting because Vogelbach could be that guy that anchors the DH spot against righties, and then try to have. And it's going to be hard to time all that up, but then have Contreras catch those games, and then you can kind of throw him into the DH role as well, especially against lefties. So it's going to be an interesting deadline for the Mets. I think they could go more low key, or they could make that big splash. But I don't know what would make it a win for you.
To me, it's the bullpen more than anything. I think even if they don't get the right-handed complement, I've been, banging the drum for Mark Vientos for a long time now. I still think he could be that complement if they had to go there. So to me, it's they have to get David Robertson, Michael Fulmer. I did a show a couple days ago talking about Jorge Lopez and Trey Mancini as a package. There's a lot that the Mets can do here, but you look at what they did in the first game of the Subway Series. Adam Ottavino, Buck goes to him for 5 outs, goes to Edwin Diaz for 4. To me, that says that he doesn't trust Seth Lugo and doesn't trust Drew Smith in a big game, and that's a problem. As much as they're going to get Trevor May back, you got to get at least one arm here that you can really trust outside of Edwin Diaz.
I agree, and you got to stack it up with some of the other bullpens. And right now, I think the Mets it's solid. And Diaz being the bullpen ace really helps, but I don't know if they quite have that length and that depth bullpen wise that would stack up with some of the other teams that are in that conversation. You know, in top 5 teams in baseball, I think the Mets have a little bit to be desired in the bullpen department, but still very solid.
And if we learn anything about Steve Cohen's Mets, they're going to be active and they're a team to watch at the deadline this year. Make sure you're tuned in to our State of the Division YouTube feed for all 30 outlooks for 30 teams. We got the written side as well at justbaseball.com, and go to our podcast feed for the audio version as well.